What's up everybody, my name's Andy and welcome back to Kit Guru. So today we're checking out a custom built system from Box using their website configurator. This system is a higher tiered system with a price tag of £2,752.04. At this price point, it may appeal to those wanting the most modern hardware to tackle any game 2022 may throw at it, but will it hold up during our tests when we compare it to a system that costs £1,000 less? Well, let's find out. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as it supports all the work that we do over here at Kit Guru. I say this during every pre-built system I review, as there was once a time that we'd always advocate building your own PC from scratch and leaving the pre-built for those uninterested in saving money or delving deeper into PC gaming. However, PC parts have been ridiculously scarce and expensive for 2 years now, and because of that, many have resorted to buy pre-builts, as buying a pre-built is pretty much the only guaranteed way of getting your hands on some of the latest and greatest components. Due to this reason, we're checking out Box's custom PC configurator, and you can buy standard pre-built systems from their website, or you can make a complete system from scratch using anything you'd like this one. So let's dive into the specs of our custom system. We've got a Lian-Li O11D Air Mini S Snow White standard gaming case, an MSI MPG Z690 Force Wi-Fi motherboard, an Intel Core i7 12700KF processor, a Lian-Li Galahad 240mm RGB AIO CPU liquid cooler, 32 GB, which is 2 x 16 GB of Kingston Fury Beast DDR5 5200 MHz RAM, 500 GB Seagate FireCuda 530 NVMe PCIE Gen 4 M2 SSD, Seagate 1TB BarraCuda hard drive, a Gigabyte GeForce RTX 3070 graphics card, 750W Corsair SF750 SFX fully modular platinum rated PSU, a Lian-Li Unifan SL RGB triple pack, which is 3 x 120mm white RGB case fans with controller, Windows 11 Home, a Windows 11 recovery USB drive. It has black and white cable extensions, 7-day express manufacturing, and 3-year collect and return warranty. There are some very nice specs here with the latest 12th gen Intel Core i7 and that super fast DDR5 memory at 5200 MHz. This system looks like it will be a very competent gaming and even productivity system that should handle most tasks you throw at it. But of course, in true Kit Guru fashion, we'll be putting it through its paces later on within the review. So just like the CyberPower Infinity X125 GT I reviewed last year that had an i5 12600KF, our Box custom system today has a 12th gen i7 12700KF, and the only difference here is that KF doesn't have integrated graphics and is slightly cheaper than the K variant. This isn't a big issue, especially as we have an RTX 3070 in our system, but the lack of integrated graphics can make troubleshooting a little bit more difficult. Of course, as this is a completely custom built PC, you could always opt for the K variant instead of the KF in the configurator. Before I do go any further, I wanted to bring up the CyberPower Infinity X125 GT I've just mentioned in a bit more detail. I reviewed that system back in December, and I thought we could compare that system's gaming performance later on the review to this one to see if a custom built system makes sense compared to a standard pre-built system. The CyberPower Infinity X125 GT has a Lian-Li O11 Air mini case, an i5 12600KF, 16GB of DDR4 3600 MHz RAM, a 1TB Corsair M600 Core NVMe SSD, a 750W Corsair PSU, and an RTX 3070. The specs are very similar, however, the Box custom system here costs £2,752.04, whereas the CyberPower system is almost £1,000 cheaper at £1,799. We'll see later on in our gaming benchmarks just how well the system fares against our custom built one by Box. So going back to the Box custom, the O11D Air Mini box have chosen for the system looks great. I love the almost mini cube design, but despite its name, it is still worth pointing out that this is an ATX case, so it's not mini ITX or anything like that. The theme is amazing in my opinion. I'm a sucker for white systems, and the 3 systems we have here of our own are white too, so I may be a little bit biased here. From pretty much any angle you look at it, it's almost like the interior of a sci-fi movie spaceship. It's all white, lots of glass, and RGB LED heaven. To remove the glass front panel, you actually have to remove the top cover with thumb screws on the back first, and then you lift the glass out. Once you know, it's pretty easy to do. The top, back, and bottom have super fine mesh, which could definitely help with airflow, and it gives it a great aesthetic too. We get a good selection of front I/O on the case too, with 2 times USB 3.0, 1 times USB 3.1 Type-C, and a 1 times HD audio combo jack. Taking the side panels off reveals just how much space there is inside, and for a small case, it's actually very spacious. There's a bit of empty space on the right side, but this is mainly due to our RTX 3070 being a dual fan design. If there was a larger triple fan design card installed, it would take up that extra space. However, the choice here should definitely lead to better airflow, especially with all the fans inside this system. The empty space doesn't look too aesthetically bad either, since we do have some fans towards the back there. There's a total of 9 fans in this system. We have 3 120mm RGB fans as intakes on the bottom, 1 120mm RGB fan as an exhaust on the left, and 3 more 120mm RGB fans as exhausts on the top. And then we have our 240mm AIO CPU cooler on the right side, taking that space up that I was talking about earlier, which has another 2 120mm fans. Since we have the radiator vertically mounted on the right side, we just have those 3 120mm fans as exhausts on the top, and this means we actually have good clearance on the top of the motherboard. When I checked out the very similar CyberPower Infinity X125 GT system that also had an O11 mini case, that had a top mounted radiator which blocked access to the top of the motherboard. That's not the case here though, and there's plenty of clearance. One thing to note is that there is a bit of a shame there is some GPU sag. Our Gigabyte 3070 here is a heavy looking card with a shroud and heatsink. Sadly, this has some slight sag when you get to eye level with it. It's not horrendous, but it is there, and over time this will likely sag further. It would have been nice to see some sort of support bracket here to help prevent that. As for the overall theme, the continuity is great with a predominantly white design. Our MSI motherboard, our Gigabyte 3070 graphics card, the RAM, the fans, the AIO, and even the cable extensions are all white and black, but mainly white. This is a perfect system to splash RGB LED everywhere, and that's what's happened here with all of our fans, which are either RGB or white lit. Our GPU has a white backlit Gigabyte logo, and our CPU pump has the Lian-Li logo surrounded in an awesome RGB LED spiral. This may not be to some people's tastes, but I do think this is one of the best systems I've reviewed, but of course this is subjective. Before we check out the back of the system, I wanted to say that the build itself is very neat. Everything has been installed with care in mind and nothing is messy at all. Now let's turn it around and see behind the back panel. On the left side, we can see the radiator that's installed vertically. In the bottom right, we have a grilled area that has our 1TB Seagate hard drive installed, and the center column can be removed too. Behind this, you can see all of our cables and cable management. Our power supply is mounted in the top right, and keeping the centerpiece out shows you just how well Box have managed to cable manage back here. Sometimes the back of systems hide a lot of mess, but this build is tidy and they've done a great job considering how many cables and cable extensions they've managed to hide behind that bracket. Overall, the entire build is very well built. It's clean and well managed. Everything looks like it has a purpose without anything being mismatched or misplaced. I really like the aesthetic and layout of the case too, and I think the theme and placement of the radiator and fans really make this system pop and make a statement. So let's move over to our benchmark tests. During Cinebench R20, comparing it to other pre-builts I've reviewed in the past, we take second place, only barely losing out on first place to a Ryzen 9 5900X for our multi-core scores, but we actually outperformed it quite a bit during the single core test. In Cinebench R23 though, we actually surpassed the AMD Ryzen 9 5900X in both multi-core and single-core tests with a clear win during single-core tests, but it was a close call during the multi-core tests. Time taken to render our BMW CPU test with Blender was very fast at just 107 seconds. PC Mark 10 shows how well the system performs in a variety of tasks and where it excels, scoring very well across the board but really excelling in digital content creation. To test our 32GB of DDR5 RAM at 5200MHz, we put it to the test within Ada 64, where as expected it scored very well and consistently within all three benchmarks here, hitting almost 80,000 read and staying above 70,000 in write and copy benchmarks too. Moving over to Crystal Diskmark to test our 500GB Seagate FireCuda 530, as it is a Gen 4 PCIe SSD, we expected to see some fast read speeds here, and it didn't disappoint, hitting over 7,000 megabytes per second. The writes aren't as great though, as this is a 500GB drive, hitting around 3,800 megabytes per second. So ideally we would have hoped to see a 1TB SSD here instead, providing more storage and faster reads. Now let's look at our graphics card results. Looking at 3D Mark Time Spy, we can see the system performed well overall and excelled in the CPU part of the test. 3D Mark Firestrike also shows great scores across the board here too, excelling in the physics portion of the test. 3D Mark Firestrike Ultra saw the same consistency, but once again keeping those physics scores very high. Now let's move over to some real-world gaming examples. As I mentioned at the start of the review, I'll be comparing the test results from the system against the CyberPower system that is almost £1,000 cheaper to show you what performance to expect from a much cheaper system, but with similar specs. So Forza Horizon 5 Ultra preset saw us hit 115 FPS average and 94 1% low at 1080p, and still good scores even at 1440p with 95 FPS average and 81 FPS as the 1% low. However, when we look at the £1,000 cheaper CyberPower results, they're almost identical. We see a dip of 3 FPS average in both 1080p and 1440p. In Gears 5, the system held up well, almost getting 156 FPS at 1080p, and it's not too far behind at 1440p too. Looking at the CyberPower system, we do see a larger drop in FPS here, with 15 FPS less in 1080p and 9 FPS less in 1440p, but that's not a significant drop in my eyes for the price difference. The Division 2 is usually quite a tough one on cards, but at 1080p, we get a solid 150 FPS average, and it didn't get below 100 FPS even in the 1% lows either. In 1440p, it stays just above a 100 FPS average. Again, the CyberPower system is hot on the heels though, with just 13 FPS less in 1080p and just 7 FPS less in 1440p. Now, a game that is demanding is of course Shadow of the Tomb Raider. On highest settings with VSync off, we saw excellent results with 156 FPS at 1080p and 110 FPS at 1440p. Comparing the CyberPower results, we see once again it's very close. 9 FPS less in 1080p and 5 FPS less in 1440p. Lastly, our final game was Doom Eternal, and as you're probably expecting, we get get great results here with a huge 270 FPS at 1080p and just shy of 215 FPS at 1440p. This sees our biggest dip in FPS when comparing the systems though, with the CyberPower coming in at 37 FPS less at 1080p and only 18 FPS less at 1440p. Despite that, both systems achieve amazing results here. Overall, both systems here are incredibly capable as modern gaming machines, and as you can see, the £1,000 cheaper CyberPower system really kept up with the custom system here from Box. So are you surprised by these results? Let us know down in the comments. We'll talk more about this towards the end, just before the conclusion. Looking now at temperatures, our Intel i7-12700KF remained relatively cool even when gaming, but with an extended multi-core run during our Cinebench R23 benchmark, we did see that it gets quite warm at 86 degrees, but nothing terrible. GPU temps were very cool here, keeping below 65 degrees Celsius even after all of our strenuous game tests. As for power draw, we idle at 89 watts, but under max load when gaming, we can see it sits below 450 watts, which is absolutely fine because we have plenty of headroom with our 750 watt power supply, making it ideal for any potential CPU or GPU upgrades down the line. Lastly, in terms of noise levels, I was pleasantly surprised. Even at its loudest, it still remains quieter than my own system. Next, I wanted to show you just how easy it is to use Box's custom PC configurator. Loading up their website, I selected Start from Scratch, and this gives you each step to choose from and the options that will work together too, starting with your case and then CPU, etc. As this system is a custom build, I wanted to recreate it to see if we could get close to the original £2,752.04 price that Box told us the system cost. Unfortunately, there were a couple of items out of stock that we couldn't choose. Despite that though, everything else was in stock and our total came to £2,769.62, which is very close to their original price. I think if all the parts were in stock, it would have come to the same total. Using their configurator was very easy, and even if you're not computer savvy, I think you'd be fine. If not, then there is a live chat option too. On the other hand, we do need to address the CyberPower system that we've compared it to in this video. Yes, Box are offering a completely custom option. However, almost every system builder offers adjustments to their pre-configured systems. For example, the CyberPower system we've looked at also lets you adjust the configuration to suit your needs. You could choose a better or worse component to adjust the overall price based on your budget. Despite being able to completely customize your experience from Box, this particular configuration doesn't make a lot of sense to us, given the overall cost and the performance that you get for that cost. We saw during our gaming results just how capable the CyberPower Infinity X125 GT system was, almost matching the Box custom build in every game in both 1080p and 1440p gaming other than Doom Eternal, and that system is almost a whole £1,000 cheaper. For us, looking at this system in isolation, there's no reason we'd choose to pay that much more. For the best bang for buck, you could save a lot of money by going down the pre-built route like the CyberPower Infinity X125 GT. However, if money is no object and you want a completely custom system with every single detail chosen by yourself and expertly built by Box, then this is something you could consider. In conclusion, as an isolated look at one singular custom built system from Box and disregarding the price for one moment, I've had a fantastic time checking it out. Aesthetically, it looks sleek, smart, and certainly makes a statement with the white and black and RGB LED heavy theme. I absolutely love the O11D case shape and design. The entire build is very well put together and cable managed too. All the part choices pair well together, and I like the radiator being vertically installed to give you access to the top of the motherboard whilst looking aesthetically pleasing too. This system is capable of pretty much anything you want to throw at it with its 12th gen Intel Core i7-12700KF, the RTX 3070, and of course that super fast DDR5 RAM at 5200 MHz. However, looking at the price and comparing it against the CyberPower Infinity X125 GT at £1,000 less, then it's hard to find a reason why this box custom configuration is worth that extra cash. There's no denying the quality you're getting from box here. We just find it hard to justify the price of this particular configuration. If money was no object, then I definitely feel comfortable asking box to build me a system for myself, given the level of care and detail they've put into this build. Realistically though, I'd be saving £1,000 and looking around at some other pre-built options. So what are your thoughts on the box custom PC we've taken a look at today? Will you be buying a custom PC or be just buying a normal pre-built? Let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out our website daily for tech news. I'm Andy, this is Kit Guru. Thanks for watching.